My stance on AI is that it's here. Okay, I mean it's unavoidable. It's technology that is only going to get better as time goes on. There are ethical issues of it steal, quote unquote, stealing from other artists, and that is something that probably will have to be addressed. You know, either through legislation or through some other thing that will take that into account.
Thank you guys for coming to watch Plunge-Pop with myself, Aru. Thank you. Press that subscribe button, share, and press that like button. I appreciate you guys for checking us out here. I'm sitting here in wonderful Whangarei, New Zealand, and across at Houston is Ben DUNN. Ben, I'm going to put you on solo, and I want you to introduce yourself and let people know who you're about, and then we'll get into the meet and grind of things.
Sure. What would you like to know?
Just a short bio.
Oh, short bio. Let's see. Well, I started Antarctic Press in 1985. We've been in business continuously. We'll be celebrating our 40th anniversary in about 2 years, so we're happy with that. I created Ninja High School, which is my longest running series that I've done so far, currently approaching issue 200. And of course, I created Warrior Nun, which is now a Netflix show. And I'm currently an editor at Antarctic Press. I do a lot of the anthology titles, and I'm still doing Ninja High School.
Thank you for
Hello?
that. Yeah, I mean, I don't like to interrupt people when they're speaking because I always kind of go, yes, yes. And I find that annoying for myself when I hear back. So I mute myself. Thank you for that. I mean, 40 years, man. That's awesome. You know, I was looking at this. I was like, 40, that's
makes me feel old.
I'm 40. I'm 50 this year. So that's almost as old as me, and that's such an amazing, amazing.
I was just like 10 years old when we started the company. Just a little kid.
Yeah, let's talk about that, right? Let's talk about young Ben. Oh, by the way, before I start, my first proper girlfriend was Taiwanese, right?
Oh, nice.
So here in New Zealand, migrant, and it was beautiful lady and young girl at that time. But I mean, amazing people, man. Like, so when I found that, I was like, yes, this is cool. I know Taiwan.
Yes, we have a colorful history for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about yourself, your childhood and stuff, and how you got into comics.
Sure. What would you like to know?
Well, tell us about young Ben growing up.
Well, I was born in Taiwan, but I immigrated to the States when I was like maybe less than a year old, and grew up. First lived in Louisville, Kentucky, but we didn't stay there very long, and immigrated to moved to San Antonio, Texas, where I grew up most of my life. I recently moved to the Dallas area in 2000, in around 2005 or so, and I've been here ever since. And I've been running the northern office of Antarctic Press. I do a lot of searching for new talent, developing books, developing series, just being generally keeping pretty busy.
Awesome. I was talking to one of my friends, Big Stu yesterday, about how from what I understand about Texans, they're very warm, kind, common sense people. Do you find that the same when you got there?
Yeah, for the most part. Their driving is crazy, and they do take very little nonsense, but they're very friendly overall, as long as you're just upfront and honest, and don't try to pull any fast ones. But yeah, I mean, they're pretty much the same, about anywhere you go.
Yeah, I think Texans and us Kiwis will get along very well. We're very similar in our nature. Because I've got like a couple of friends who are from Texas, like Hawk from Rising Sun Comics, and then of course Stuart, and then I think there's a couple others that I've met over the last couple of years, and I find that they're very endearing and very warm people. That's why that's how I've become like, yes, I know this is how Texans are now, because I've actually met them, and and find them very you know
Oh,
steadfast
absolutely.
people.
You certainly will be welcome here if you ever come by and visit. I'll give you the grand tour.
I think Texas would be a great place to visit if there's any place I'd like to go.
Absolutely. You'd be certainly welcome.
Now, when you guys moved to Houston, right? And what was the decision? Do you think I mean, why was the decision to move there and not anywhere else in America?
I mean, we're not located in Houston. We have an office in San Antonio.
I know
And
when your parents moved, like when your
oh,
parents moved from
remember
Taiwan. Yeah.
to San Antonio? Well, that's where my father got a job offer and packed up the whole
Okay.
family and moved them out there, and been living there ever since. It's southern Texas is a little bit different than northern Texas, so there's a bunch of larger Hispanic population. So I got to mingle a lot with that area, and it was really a sort of a laid back type of existence.
But what was this? What was the job that brought him over? Your father, that is.
Well, my father he teaches anatomy at the University of
Oh,
Texas. He teaches future doctors. Yeah, he had an old saying. He had a PhD, and he told me, you know what the difference between a PhD and MD is? You know, is that PhD is poor, hungry, and dumb, and an
yeah,
MD is $1 million.
exactly. Yeah, the one who teaches gets less than the one who does it, right?
Yeah, well, he seemed to be pretty happy with that. I don't know why he never decided to become an MD, but he just was happy with teaching.
Now, I wonder if that's something that's had influence on your life as a teaching, because like you said, you look out for other people and you go out looking for talent and stuff. Uh, do you think your dad had that influence on you?
Oh yeah, well, definitely. He's from the old country, so he
Right.
definitely had ideas of what was like legitimate and what was not legitimate.
Mm.
But I grew up in the United States. Like any other normal kid, I watched a lot of TV, read a lot of comic books.
Yeah.
Wasted a lot of time just hanging out with my friends and doing stuff. That's something that he couldn't understand.
Mm.
That
Mm.
in kids in the United States are raised differently than kids anywhere else in the world. So
Mm.
it was. I quickly became fans of Star Trek, and I quickly watched lots of TV and lots of
Yeah.
cartoons, ate lots of sugary cereals. Went to the public schools there, so I was able to get a American education,
Mm.
and I just didn't feel like I needed to, follow in my father's footsteps. I wanted to part chart my own destination.
Yeah. I understand that as well, because like I'm similar in that vein. I never sort of stuck to one thing. I left home when I was 16, going on 17, and just friends were the more important thing than anything else, and just did crazy stuff. But do you think that sort of helped you learn to, you know, what is it called? Socialize more with people outside of your own friend group, kind of thing, like
Oh yeah,
different
oh
people.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, uh, I was basically the stereotypical nerd. Okay, I was playing
Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons. I was reading comics. I was watching science fiction, and all that kind of stuff. And I found people who share similar interests, and we became friends, and we started going to conventions, and I made it my life's goal to work in comics. I wanted to work for Marvel and DC.
Now, you did work for Marvel at a point with the Mangaverse. I was looking at your, bit of your bio, because I want to see all the stuff that you've done. But like, I mean, almost 40 years. I mean, you've done so much. Um,
I tried.
yeah. So what was, after all this, like, conventions and, getting comics and pop culture and stuff like that, what made you decide that comics was going to be the thing for you?
Well, that's just what I wanted to do. I mean, it
Mm,
was not my parents didn't understand it. They just thought it was a waste of time, that I
mm,
was not going to go anywhere with it. But you know what? I loved comics. I wanted to do comics. It was my dream, and I just worked toward that in any way, shape, or
mm.
form. And so in 1984, I actually got some around 83 or 84. I got actual comic work with a local comic book company that
Oh
was
wow.
based in San
Okay.
Antonio. Did a few, I did a few stories with them.
Yeah.
And I got to get to know the business. Got to know some other pros like Pat Boyette at the time was living in San Antonio. I got to know him,
Mhm.
and I got to know the ins and outs of running a comic book publishing company. So when the company eventually closed doors, I had the knowledge to go ahead and start and strike out on my own and
Mm.
created Antarctic Press.
Now, for those who don't know, and myself included, who's Pet Boyette?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I can't
Oh,
hear you.
sorry. For those who don't know, and myself included, who's Pet Boyette? Who was or is Pet Boyette?
I'm sorry, I still can't hear you. You're still breaking up.
Okay, so I'll put. Oops, sorry. It's Pet Boyette. Who was that?
Yes, okay, and I can hear you.
Yeah.
So what's the question?
Who was Pet Boyette?
Oh, Pat Boyette, he
Yeah.
is an old school comic book artist. He did a lot of stuff for Charlton, and he was quite really a good artist. He had sort of he did I think he did a lot of stuff for, I'm not sure, but I think he did like a couple of covers for Peacemaker, and he did. I mean, he was quite a journeyman artist. I don't think he created anything on his own, but he did
Mm,
do a lot of comics.
well, yeah.
But
I mean,
he was big in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. He just passed away like 20 years ago or so.
well, yeah. I mean, there's old school guys. I mean, like, you know, did a lot of work, right? They're workhorses, and I find that some of the names I don't know, I might actually have the comics, you know, and that's so cool. I saw one of your posts just this past week about the guy who did the Mexican Spider-Man, that you
Yes.
just recently met.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
how did you come about meeting him? I mean,
Well, he came to me. I was at a convention and was
yeah,
at my table, and they introduced me to him. And was funny because the night before I was actually talking about it. Maybe I was talking about him, and I guess they dug him up and brought him over to say hello. And I was really honored to meet him. He was such a nice guy, and it's just amazing to meet living history. People who actually were in
yeah,
the industry for decades.
yeah,
Who's part of something that was. I mean, uh, before I even knew about it, I didn't even realize that in Mexico they had decided to go their own way with a new storyline after the Gwen
okay,
Stacy death. And
mm,
now it's become like almost like a alternate universe where
mm,
Peter Parker marries Gwen Stacy instead of her dying. And they did
that's
it.
pretty
I
cool.
mean, they probably didn't have permission to do it, but they just did it anyway, which is
Mm,
very unusual. And that's the guy who drew it. He drew the comics, and I just wanted to know more about it. I wanted to
yeah,
find out, well, what was it like, to do that,
mm,
to go against convention, where you were taking an established Marvel character and just
mm.
deciding to do your own story. I just don't. I don't think you can get away with that nowadays. That's for sure.
Yeah, they're too tight on that. I mean, when I was looking for Areala, because I've got it all done under A, B, C, D in my containers down there, and I came across a Brave New Day, right, the Spider-Man where Mephisto basically annuls Spider-Man and Mary Jane's marriage, and I looked at him with disgust, right, like a little point. It's like, you know, it's there, but doesn't mean I like it, that moment. And you know, it's like, how can you do that, but when
Well, I mean, it's interesting to talk to these because the of course, comics back in the day, I use that term loosely, is that they were under the understanding that they were basically work for hire. They were basically independent contractors, and that anything they did would be owned by the people that hired them. There was no such thing as creator rights back then. I mean, there were a few people who would fight. There was a few exceptions, like Will Eisner, for instance, made sure he kept the copyright for the Spirit, but everybody else, they were hired to do a job. They did the job, and they were expected not to do anything else. It's like a plumber would come in and fix your sink, and he wouldn't be expected royalties once you left the sink. So that was the attitude. But the difference has been that things have.
I think we've lost Ben there. Hopefully we can get him back. Apologies if I guys.
Something that has such important value.
Sorry, Ben, you cut out for a bit there. Can you repeat that?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's unfortunate that the company, I mean, a creator who's created something that of immense value, no longer, I mean, it cannot share in the revenue generation that it creates. I mean, back in then, there was no, they had no idea that their product would be made into movies or, DVDs or video games or there was no
toys,
or toys even for that matter. Yes, exactly. So it was just a given that comics were just comics. No one actually thought about it other than just comics. But that all changed when people started making them into movies and video games and all that kind of stuff, and the revenue they generated was immense. And it just seemed only fair that the creator would get at least some compensation for the creation. But unfortunately, the attitude has not changed much. I mean, it's changed a little, but it's still pretty much as it always has been.
I mean, it is like, I mean, as a publisher, I mean, let's step back a bit. Like when you started Antarctic Press, what was the motivation to do that?
Well, the motivation was for me just to create comics. I had a ton of ideas I wanted to put out, and this was the easiest path to getting that accomplished. Because the direct market had just started, so now you no longer had the gatekeeping of newsstand. You didn't have that hurdle to jump in order to get on newsstand, because newsstand was very tricky. You had to get in touch with distributor. Now, direct market meant that you got it straight into comic stores on a non-returnable basis. So that was perfect. And at the time, there was like a dozen regional, distributors of comics. So there was a plenty of competition for sales and for for product. So it was really good times back then. But what changed was that when Marvel decided to distribute their own books, and that's when the whole market started to collapse, in my opinion.
Now, for those people who kind of don't understand what newsstand means, can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, as far back as the 1930s to the present, there were distributors who would take the comics from a comic publisher and put them in newsstands. Okay, and what I mean by newsstands is that any place that were willing to carry comics, that's the spinner rack, the newsstand market, and they were responsible for getting the comics and take them to the various places where they would sell. Then after the month was over, they would pick up all the comics, that unsold comics, and return them for credit for the next month's comics. that changed in the late 70s, I mean mid 70s, when the direct market began. And what I mean by the direct market is that comic book stores started to pop up everywhere to sell comics. And Phil Swilling, I think, was the one who actually started it. Decided he convinced Marvel and DC to sell comics to him directly, so that he could put them into the comic book stores,
Hmm.
on a non-returnable basis. And that's the direct market. So newsstand is where they're taken to, like, grocery stores and newsstands and gas stations, etc. And the
Hmm.
direct market is to the comic store.
Right. So for our non-American viewers, in America, you have like these little, basically on the side of on the footpath, you have these little, cubbyhole type uh, stores where they sell smokes, cigarettes, lollies, and newspapers, and you could have them comics there. Whereas over here, you basically have to have a store, and it's part of the town, and you'd have those comics there. For us here, like I remember buying Valiant comics on a newsstand, or like a spinner rack at an antique store, like a furniture store. It was weird. It was like furniture toys kind of store in New Zealand, like in the mid 80s. So I didn't actually see a comic store until I moved to Auckland, which is the next city down from us, 2 hours away. Actually 4 hours at that time, in Auckland, and where they actually had comic stores. But that was my first experience. Was like about probably
Yeah.
5 years later. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a lot of comic stores back in the 80s and 90s. I mean, it was really a huge market at the time, But unfortunately, now things have changed, and I'm not sure how long the direct market will last. So I'm hoping it'll stay around for a long time, but I mean, the way things are going, it's I'm not so sure.
Was it tough to starting out at the age that you started out to try to talk to these guys to get your comics in there?
No, it was actually pretty easy.
Hmm.
The thing is that at the time, you pretty much had to create an account. You contact the distributor, they would look at your offerings, and then they would decide whether to carry you or not. Now, fortunately for us, back in the mid 80s, there weren't a lot of comic book publishers. There just simply weren't. So we were able to get in fairly easily through the many distributors that were. We had Capital, Diamond, of course. You had Heroes. There was a lot of other distributors too as well. So it was just a matter of them saying, "Yeah, we'll carry your book," and we just send in the information about the book and when it's supposed to be released, and they would put it in their catalog, and those catalogs would be sent out to their accounts, and they would order the book, and we would, when the time came, we printed it and shipped it to them, and they were responsible for shipping it to the store.
I kind of just had a thought, like, I wonder if we need to get back to a place where all indie, Kickstarter type, Indiegogo, Fund My Comics, and whatever else is out there, you could have a catalog of those books a year, like 6 months after they've been released or something. They go into that catalog, and people, they can be sent out to comic stores or bookstores and say, "Here's all this. Uh, you know, can you order off this?" And maybe that will be a way to get comics from Kickstarter, crowdfunding sites onto stores, right? Without having to pay the high levies that you have to do with like Diamond and probably other big store, um, stuff like Penguin or whatever else is out there distributing comics right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course you can do that. It's just a matter of having them accept your accept your material, and whether or not they'll accept you as an account.
Right.
I'm not sure how difficult it is to do with
Mm.
Penguin or Lunar. My understanding is that they're pretty picky about who they pick up as new accounts. I mean, that
Mm.
definitely is a business model that we have been using ourselves. The thing about the new paradigm of using crowdfunding is that that's direct to consumer. Okay,
Yeah.
so the people who are supporting, I mean, who are buying comics through the crowdfunding
Mm.
model they go direct to the consumer,
Right.
so they want the book. Now the difference between that and say the comic direct market is that they're put on stands. The comic book
Right.
store orders it, they put it on a stand, and then they hope that a customer will come in, look at the comic, and pick it up and buy it. So it's not a direct to consumer. It's more or less just, you are hoping that someone will pick up and buy it. You know, and but
Well,
the big difference is that there's the what you call the casual view, where customers who come to the comic store will see the comic, and may not pick it up, but they'll at least see the comic on the stand, and
yeah.
hopefully will decide to pick it up.
Mm. So my idea behind that is like, if you like, an artist cannot, like a comic producer on crowdfunding cannot survive on just that one comic coming out at that time. Maybe 10,000, 20,000. A lot of that's overheads and stuff. But once it's out there now, if you save a bit of money, you could like then print off, and now you'll be able to put that in the local store. I mean, even if it's your own local store that you're in the city of, and you go, hey, like I could go in there and like promote it by just, hey, I've got a bunch of comics. Would you like to have a night where I come in, or a day, and I can sign some comics, show off some work, sell off some whatever's left over in my printing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that will help garner more income for that creator, because I think this the 6 months, every 6 months you get your comic out there. There's a long period where if you don't get that, because the reason I say this is because I saw something that Niobe put up about, like, Larry put up about somebody else talking about how it's about the money, right? At the end of the day, people are producing comics for the money, because they're trying to live of what they love, and you can't kind of like put that aside. Okay, it's art, but like there is a 50-50 kind of thing where, like, hey, I need to get this out there to get more money to produce more. That's how I see comics, right? If I'm doing one comic, it allows me to make some money off there to do another comic that I want to do as well. But and the store seems to be the way that will allow to kind of like be a bit more financial support if you're able to get it out there. What do you think about that?
Well, it's yes. I mean, it is a comic business, and you should treat it like a business. I mean, the thing about the crowdfunding, and this is what I think is the new dynamic that I think works better. Is that yes, crowdfund your comic on your own. So that you can recover whatever costs that it takes for you to create that comic,
Hmm.
whether it's paying yourself or hiring people who to create the comic for you. Once the comic has been paid for, through crowdfunding,
Hmm.
then you could take the same comic that you've already created, then offer it to the direct market. Because you've already done the work. The work's already been paid for. Basically, what you're doing with the direct market is allowing that comic to get a much wider exposure,
Yeah.
and get more income for work
Hmm.
that's already done.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win in my
Hmm.
opinion. The only way you could lose is if your comic doesn't get successfully funded, or you end up you know doing it and you still lose money. So,
Yeah. I mean, whenever we do our podcast, I just say, if you're creative, you got to learn business, right? I mean, what was it like for you, for like, you know, at 10 years old, learning the business, starting that, you know, how did you go about learning the business?
well, at 10 years old, I was not worried about business. I was just worried about
Yeah.
reading comics. Reading comics and eating cereal and watching cartoons on Saturday morning was my was my priority. I really didn't seriously start thinking about comics until I was in high school, when I was about 15 or 16 years old, and I hang out with a bunch of group of my friends, and we would produce our own comics. In school, we would trade. Read each other's stories, and we would create new characters, things like that. And Out of all my friends, I'm the only one who actually made a living doing
Wow.
comics. So it was certainly my life's ambition to do it. So,
Mm,
and then when I went to college, I decided I had enough of school, and I wanted
mm.
to actually just say, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and start my own business, and that's when I created Antarctic Press.
That is, that's not many people or young ones would have that ambition to know exactly what they wanted at that young age, right? I mean, I didn't. Loafing around and going to work, drinking in the weekends, going to work, drinking the weekends, reading comics, buying music, and so on. But I mean, what do you think made you decide? Okay, this is it. Like, I'm going to do this.
Well, what made me decide was that when I was in college, college sucked, and I didn't want to stay in college. I was through with school. I didn't want to. I just didn't want to deal with that anymore. So
Yeah.
I decided, I can draw, I can write.
Mm,
I decided I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to see if it were to fail. If I were to
yeah.
fail in my endeavors, then I probably would have ended up just getting another job somewhere else. But I was determined to make something of this comic thing, and I just
Yeah.
kept at it until I succeeded.
I when you were talking about like your friends and showing each other and working through the comics, I all I could think of was like schools in Japan, right? You've got those clubs. You've got the music club, and you've got the manga club, and you've got the sports club. Which is like I think it's after school, and it's such a it's such an amazing thing that you're surrounded by friends who are actually doing that stuff similar to that. Because a lot of us around the world, we don't have that those sort of friends who are like doing that. Because I know I never had anybody else who was around me that was like into drawing or anything. I think I got into comics after I left school around about 15, and it was just me on my own all the time with comics and stuff. So I find it really, really awesome and cool that you had your friends there, at middle school, at a high school, and so on, at junior high, all the way up to college, I guess, helping you and challenge. Because I always think about that saying, iron sharpens iron. So bros basically keeping helping each other get better at things. Did Were there some people in your life at that time, growing up, who were like, okay, you need to do this, or let's try that, or help you along the way to make you that establish yourself into that comics style or area that you wanted to do, go forth with?
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, the thing about it is that no man's an island. You got to go ahead
Mm,
and get the feedback from somebody. You want people to be honest with you. I mean, the thing about it is that people can give you advice, or people can discover things. Some people have already experienced things, and if you can learn from other people's mistakes, that you'll
mm,
avoid them yourself. So that's I was always kept my ear open for things. I always tried to
mm,
build bridges, not burn them. I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt, to listen to them, what they have to say, be respectful. And believe me, that comes back, tenfold. It
yeah,
costs you nothing to be nice, because
yeah,
if you're nice, then people respect that and they appreciate that. And
mm,
that's the thing, is that it costs you very little, and you can reap huge benefits for it. I mean, if you act, aloof or arrogant, or if you're act nasty, most chances are most people are not going to hang around with you. And
yeah,
they're certainly not going to want to work with you, and they certainly are not going to give you any advice, or
mm,
they're certainly not going to talk to you about things. And I've learned in this business is that if you really want to you know move forward on things, you've got to respect people. You just got
mm,
to. It's just a simple matter of the fact. So, and yes, I've had a lot of people I've talked to who've given me a lot of advice, who've given me a lot of warnings, who've given me a lot of things to avoid, and it's been very useful and very helpful, and I appreciate that. And a lot of them later on became really good friends, and
mm.
we're still friends even after many decades, and I really do appreciate that.
Now, when you started Antarctic Press, how old were you?
I was, let's see, I was about 20.
20.
Yeah, let's see, it was 1985.
Yeah.
See, I graduated in 81. So let's see, 1991, about 24, 25.
So at 24, you've been through college. Did you take business up while you're doing when you're doing at college, or did you just do art and stuff like
No, I
that?
pretty much winged it. I had no idea to really running a business. I knew how to, I had to teach everything, myself from scratch. I didn't know we didn't have any comic book printers in San Antonio, so I had to go to several printers and had to do the comics piecemeal. I would have the interiors printed in one place, have the cover printed in another place. I would
Okay.
have it taken to another place to have it to cut and stitched. So, there was
Wow.
no one all-inclusive comic book publishing until later. I found out about Brenner Printing, which actually did, all that stuff. They were located in San Antonio, so they did a lot of our comics for a long time. you know so it was keeping books and stuff like that. I mean, that was just something I just hated to do, but I hated to do it. So thank goodness my brother, who is much more business oriented, he came along and helped me sort things out, and he's
Right.
probably more important and instrumental in keeping AP alive than anybody else.
So, so with when did your brother join up with you? Like, this is after 20, when you're 85.
Yes, he
Uh,
joined the company around 88.
okay, so that's 3 years after you'd already started the company.
Yes, because he knew what a mess the books were. So you he decided he was going to take charge of that, and he's been doing it ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like having someone actually in the family who knows. And the other thing about that is like your family knows your weaknesses, right? And they know where your failures are and what they can prop you towards, or they also know your strengths. And they can go, well, this is your strength. This is like I've got like my brother-in-law would tell me, this is your strength, and my sister will go, this is your weakness. So I'll have that balance. Like whenever I need some advice or something, I go, and
Yeah,
and I,
absolutely.
so what was it? I mean, having your brother, keeping the business and family. What was it like working alongside him all this
Oh,
time?
well, I mean, it's just like anything when you have a family involved in the business. I mean, it's just like, I'm sure, and we've had some doozy arguments over, how to do things, and because I'm the creative aspect, but he's the business aspect. So, sometimes they don't always get along.
Yeah,
I want to do something, but there's no money in it.
yeah,
Or it's too expensive, or how can we, and he's always worried about this comic didn't sell as well as it should
mm,
have. So, we're going to be short this month. I mean, it took a lot of finagling to keep the company afloat. I mean, there
yeah,
was several times the company almost was on the verge of bankruptcy, but somehow we
yeah.
pulled out of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the creative field don't understand how hard it is to actually be in the comics field, right, and publishing. And I think because they have this idea that there's always money available, everything's going to sell, right? I'm going to do about 50,000 copies of this, and every 50,000 is going to sell. Or I'm going to do, I'm going to produce like 10,000 of these games, and they'll sell. And then you go put it in the shop, and it's like, oh, we only sold 5. And
Well,
then the other shop will go, we sold 100. What was,
yeah,
did
I mean,
you
everybody has the hope that their thing is going to
yeah,
be massively appreciated, and they're
yeah,
going to sell tons but the thing is, you just don't know until you actually do it.
yeah,
That's the thing about capitalism, is that you take a chance. You're hoping that
yeah.
what you create will resonate with people, and hopefully it'll reward you with compensation.
Yeah, I mean, artists and creative people are always positive about their work. You know, I'm like, I know this will sell. This is going to be great. And then you go, well, what does everybody else think? There's too many words on that.
Yeah,
There's too
well,
many words there. And I
it's a
I did that
fine
last year,
balancing
right?
it. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
fine balancing act.
yeah,
Sometimes you have to decide, when to give up. The
yeah.
thing is that, you know, I mean, I've started a lot of series that I began, but
Yeah.
didn't pursue any further because it just either I lost interest in it or it just didn't sell. So,
Mm.
if it didn't sell, then you move on. You find something
Yeah.
else that does.
Yeah, I mean, like from experience, right? So last year I put out this web comic, right? But we
Hmm.
print self printed it here. Put in $500 of my own money into it. Got to print it, and I'm like, my friend goes, you know, it's too many words on this page. It's too many words, and I'm like, but it's a web comic. I only put it out a page a week, and my idea was that I want to give them a week's worth of, story. And then I
Sure.
came back and went, it works as a web comic, but not as a print comic. And so I rewrote the entire thing and we took it to Kickstarter and it worked. But you, it's, unless you've had something, I find like unless you've failed at something, you don't learn. But it's
Oh,
also a good
absolutely.
thing if you succeed.
Right, right. Absolutely. I mean, if you can find people who've already been down that path and they give you advice, then of course you'd avoid the pratfalls. But at the same time, you're right. Absolutely. If you don't learn, what do they say? Definition of insanity is doing the same
Repeat.
thing over and over again and
Yeah.
expect a different result. I mean, it's you got to understand that there is a time when you have to decide, is this worth it? Can I
Yeah.
continue to do it? Is it is the so is this something that's going to pay off? And if it doesn't, then should I move on to something else or should I give it up?
I've, have you, have you had to start? I mean, if you have you, because you work with a lot of creatives, right? Have you had creatives you had to turn away and or go, hey, maybe rework that, and they've never come back because you've said that, given advice from your experience, because a lot of people don't know that you've had so much experience. Have you had that experience turning people
Well,
away?
well, for me personally, I don't really like to do that because every creator has his own vision. And
Hmm.
if it's something that I think will work, then I'll let them know. Yeah, this is I like it and I want to publish it. But if it doesn't work, then I'll just simply say, well, this doesn't quite work. If you can fix it, then maybe I will reconsider it. Things to that nature. But yeah, it can be difficult to assess, what a creator is doing because he's every creative work is unique. It's
Yeah.
it's 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 special unto the creator himself. And be it
Yeah.
far from me, okay, an outsider, I can only go by what I judge by how I feel about it.
Hmm.
I can't criticize you for the work, but I can tell you how I feel about it.
Yeah.
And this way you'll come to an understanding that, maybe it's not for me, or
Hmm.
maybe this is something that I really like,
Yeah.
and that's where I have to balance, my feelings with,
Hmm.
pragmatism.
Yeah. So now you've been like your brother comes on board in 1988. Um, how does the book start working, or do you guys start fixing issues, or whatever you might have had shortfalls in the business? What was his influence upon the business about that point?
Well, my brother's influence was that he kept the books, you know. And the thing about it is that a lot of things he took care of that I probably would have screwed up. Like
Yeah.
he kept track of the sales, he kept track of how much it cost. He kept
Mhm.
track of taxes. He kept track of the utilities, the rent, supplies, all that stuff. He kept track of. And because of that we were able to run a very efficient, business where
Mhm.
we knew whether we were losing money or not. And that's
Yeah.
sometimes is really important is whether you're knowing you're losing money or not. Because if you're losing money, then you're doing something wrong. Okay, you're
Yeah.
obviously doing something wrong. And if you're making money, then you're doing something right, and you keep on
Right.
doing that thing that's right. So the thing about comics is that it's a roller coaster ride. There are times you're going to do well, and then there are times you're going to flop miserably. You just can't predict.
Now, with did you guys move, like you're talking about utilities and stuff? Did you actually get into a brick and mortar store, not store, a building to be able to print comics,
Well,
or did you do it from home?
at first we worked from home. That was the most expedient way to do things. And then we bought a office because there was a space available that was very cheap. And we decided that we had grown sufficiently enough to move into our own business. This way we could, entertain clients. We could interview prospective creators. We'd have a place to store all our excessive inventory and things like that. So we eventually moved to an office building, and then recently the landlord of that office building sold the building, so we had to move out, and we bought another house and turned that into a business.
When did you buy the first office space? I mean, when did you move into there? Sorry.
We moved into the first office space, I think, around 1993 or 94.
Right. So, and how recently did you have to move out of this space?
Well, we recently had to move out of that space about 5 years ago, around 2015 or 16.
Well, so you were established there for such a long time. It's like almost 2 decades, wasn't that?
Yes, we were there for a long time, but eventually the owner of the property decided to sell the property, so we had to move out.
Right. Was it too expensive? Like, did you ever decide, well, we could buy the building itself, or was it too much, or would it be better to move somewhere else?
No, the property had increased in value so much that there's no way we could. We would have been better off, buying a house, and that's what we did.
Awesome. So this is like a 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, or 3-bedroom home, and just
it's a
did you take a
house that we converted into an office space.
Wow. Now, did you have to like refurbish the place, like take down walls and stuff like that to make it work, or did you
No,
leave it as
actually,
it
we
is?
wanted it to. Basically, it acts sort of as a dual thing. It acts as an office, and it acts as a place for creators to just, cook and sleep and and stay there. Basically, we allow creators to hang out.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I mean, like seriously, that is something totally different. Where like it's almost like it's like a motel, right? Because you got to create a motel space. I mean, you'd never think anybody would do that.
Oh yeah, we've been doing it. We've been doing it for a long time.
Right. So, what made you decide to do that? I mean, like that's very different to anybody else doing it.
Well, we allow certain creators to stay with us in exchange that they create for us. It's sort of like well, you could stay here, but we expect you to do this. Of course, we pay them for it, but it does save them the hassle of having to find an apartment, and we get use out of having an in-house creative team that can do things on a moment's notice. So if a book becomes, if we need to fix something, we can get it done right away. We don't have to wait. We can just get it done right away. We don't, we snap to it and get it done.
Yeah, I mean that is amazing, to be honest, for someone like me who's living across the world, right? And the publishers over there in America, and like it's not going to happen. But
yeah, well,
I think
back in the day, we had to FedEx everything. That was super expensive. Now we just scan it in and send it by email. It's just way cheaper and a lot faster.
Yeah, and I think a lot of modern creatives have no idea, and they don't even want to look at that. They don't want to look at the history to appreciate what's happening now. I think for someone like yourselves who have like been in it for so long, you have so much knowledge about the business that that a lot of new creators have no idea about how to actually just to approach a publisher, or actually how does the printing work, or the thickness of the paper. Why would you go to a lower GSM, and how to budget enough to be able to decide what colors to use and what not to use. I mean, when you think about like a spot color, in an interior is just as costly as doing a full color, comic book.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the technology has made things a lot easier and more convenient, and that's fine. Technology is supposed to make your life easier. And while I certainly don't want to sound like an old fogey saying, "Oh, these young people, they just don't know how hard it was back then," but that's I don't begrudge them for that, because that's something that they've taken advantage of, and this is what makes things better, makes things more faster, more efficient, and and quite frankly, I think it's a good thing. You want
Yeah.
things to be faster and more efficient.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't live without it, right? I'm working with artists from friggin' South America, North America, probably Spain, in the US or wherever, and at the same time working with somebody else from another country. That could not be as cost effective as it is now before. And
No,
so, like you mentioned about FedExing stuff, I mean, seriously, how do you go find an artist that's going to be able to work with you at the cost that you can afford, compared to like just someone, in country? And like, have you ever had to like go, okay, well, reach out to certain artists and go, look, can't really afford that one on this book, but can you, try somebody else? When you're dealing with artists, how do you go about dealing with artists? I guess that's my question, from different
well, I mean,
places.
it's truly international now. I mean, that's the thing. Back then, you couldn't. You had to find local talent. That was really your only option, other than maybe going through the various trade magazines. Like Comic Buyer's Guide or such as that. Now you just all you do is go through the various websites that do that, or just post something on Facebook or X and ask, if anybody's interested. I'm looking for an artist, and I guarantee that 24 artists will, DM
Yeah,
that guy in less than 5 seconds. So
yeah,
it's different now, and that's a good thing, because it does allow us to now not be limited by borders or by time zones, or by being able to contact people. And now you can even speak to people in other languages and just send a translated version of your letter. You don't
yeah.
have to speak the language anymore.
Yeah, I think that happens with my emails sometimes, because I get very, very, very cool emails back when I'm thinking, I don't even know what language that person speaks. But
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
such a it's such an amazing world to live in. Like, I mean, as much as I say, oh, should know about the past, but I mean, I'm kind of like in the sense like you should know what's come before, so you appreciate what's happening now more. I mean, you look at technology, like something like Clip Studio Paint, it's called now. Stuff like that. When in the old days, you're just pen and paper, or photocopy and stuff, and now you can just do it all there. Like I use that for lettering and design work, and I'm going, when I didn't have it, right? 2007, it was just me and my mouse. That's how I was drawing. And now I can just design all the logos and all the bubbles on the
Sure,
screen. Uh,
absolutely. I mean, the technology is there, but it still
yeah,
takes a human mind to come up with the idea, and that is where that's the most important thing, is the idea.
yeah,
Because you can use all the technology in the world you want, but if your idea, it has to come from an idea, and if it doesn't come from there, then it's all just a bunch of you know tools.
mm. Which kind of leads me to the next question. I think it's talking about ideas and stuff. What do you think about, or have you heard someone approach you with AI art and saying, I want to do a comic using AI art? And what is your, have you had to make a decision on all that, or what are your stance on that?
My stance on AI is that it's here. Okay, I mean, it's unavoidable. It's technology that it's only going to get better as time
Mm,
goes on. There are ethical issues of it. You steal, quote unquote, stealing from other artists, and
mm,
that is something that probably will have to be addressed. Either through legislation or through
yeah,
some other thing that will take that into account. But sooner or later, it's going to get to the point where the AI will be able to just create something from whole cloth.
yeah,
And the thing about it is that you can teach an AI to do the thing specifically for you. Like if you're an artist and you want to teach an AI to draw like you,
Yeah.
okay, is that any different than
Yeah.
coloring on computer, or lettering on computer? I mean, I am of the mindset that it's here and it's unavoidable. You can either adapt, or you can ignore it. You have that choice. You have that right to ignore it. But as it becomes easier to use, and the output becomes better and better, uh, there's no way you're going to be able to not interact with it. It's just going to be part of life. And then you have to make a decision whether you accept it or you don't.
I was like, when you were just saying that, teaching an AI to do it like you do it, like I thought, a little while back, I mean, a couple of decades back, you could like speak and the keyboard would type it, right? Type out what you're speaking. And now it's like, when you take that in board, it's like, I could put on all my tens of thousands of pages of work over the last 30 years into this AI and say, I want you to take this new story that I want to write in my style, using the way I speak, using the way I would tell a story, and produce these, make this into this, and then I'll go and edit. I hadn't even thought about that idea of AI being that sort of tool. Whereas, like, when you're using AI, you're just using it to take from everybody else's and make a story. Because I actually put one of my own stories that I'm never going to use, but I feel sad that I actually did this to it, is that I put my, my plot, my whole characters and everything into this short story I had into the AI, and then it took everything and made it into 3-4 versions of it, and I kept correcting it. But the idea that you can now say, like, hey, do it my way using my own work, I find that much more interesting and much more pleasant.
Sure, it's going to get to that point. I mean, it's the thing is, it starts with you. You have to come up with the idea. You have to be the one to enter all the prompts. You have to enter the characters, all that stuff, and all the AI is doing is just like putting it together in a format that it's acceptable to you. And if you're the one doing all the input, I mean, how is that any it's all that's really doing is making you more efficient, and making it faster. I mean, if they're gonna be writers who just won't accept it, and that's fine. You have that right to do that. But there's going to be writers who won't, who will adapt to it, and they're the ones who's going to be producing huge amounts of material. And how good that material is, I don't know. That has to be for the market to decide. If the market, if you produce something with AI and people love it, then how do you argue with that? You can't argue with that kind of. It's hard to argue with success. That's the thing.
Right. Like, I was just thinking, like, with that in mind, like, how the people accept it, like because I'm a heavy metal fan, so with the heavy metal music, you've got people who are producing really good heavy metal music, because digital music, of course, and they've done really well with it. But like, you've had people who've done like AI art, which is taken from other people's art, which have like made people who actually do decent work themselves, using the tools themselves, not using AI. It's confusing the art world because of that. Like, if you like somebody who's amazing like Sakiri, right, and coming up with somebody who's just taken
I mean, here
AI to do it.
I'll be honest with you. I think that 99% of the human population, most normal people, they don't give a crap about AI. Okay, doesn't affect them. They don't care. Okay, it doesn't bother them one iota. Okay, the only people who are hot and bothered by it is the creator community, and of course they can be. They're bothered by it because it's a threat to their life. Their life. I mean, it's no different than somebody who was a manufacturer worker being replaced by a robot. It's a threat. And this is why I think most people are, most people are against it because it threatens their livelihood. And anytime something threatens your livelihood, you're gonna oppose it. That's
Yeah.
just a natural order of things. But what are you going to do to fight it? Okay, the thing is, the technology is here. The only thing you can do is say, boycott it, don't use it. It says, good luck with that. Okay, it's here. It can be used. People use it all the time now. It's being done it's being done on a regular basis. Once it's accepted by 99% of the human population, where does that leave you?
Well, even 51%, right? Even 51%.
Yeah,
You don't
even
have to be 99.
51%. Even 51% of the population accepts it. Where does that leave you? And you have the choice. You can choose not to use it. If you can show that you're better at it than any AI, then prove it.
Right.
Go out there and show people, hey, it's like, getting a mass-produced car, as opposed to a handcrafted Lamborghini, where everything is meticulously handmade, but, I'll be happy with a Ford,
Right. If it works, right? All you wanted to do is if it works and if it's safe.
I will almost guarantee most people cannot tell the difference between art made by a human and art made by AI. If you just show any schlub off the street, I show them two pictures. One was done by AI, one was done by a human. I almost guarantee 50% of the time, most people will pick wrong.
Yeah, it's too good. Either way, depending on the talent. But I do like the idea of like using your own skills, and
Sure, that's
for
going
AI to teach off you things.
Going to happen.
And
Sooner or later, somebody's going to come up with a app or a program that says, "Hey, enter your own, art into this thing, and it'll spew out art just like yours."
I think for me as a writer, I'll be like, okay, I don't feel like writing today, but I need to get things done because I'm I'm more of an emotion. I've got to be in the right space to start writing pages and pages of work. And if I'm not, and then if I have days and days of where I'm not, I would be happy to go, hey, dear AI, here's all my work, right? Take my thousands of pages of work and shove it into there and help me along. And then when I come back, when I feel like I'm at a good stage to write again,
I almost believe that in the future, it'll be an AI editor. You can pump them your stuff, and they'll edit it for you. It says, oh yeah, this line needs to be dropped, this change, you found some typos. It'll automatically correct all that stuff for you. And then the same with art. If let's say I decided, what, I don't want to draw a full page. I'll do layouts. I'll do really rough pencils, and then I'll pump it through the AI and it'll complete the art for me. It'll take my style and it'll draw the comic for me. Even but I still had to go out. I still had to do it. I still had to lay it out and all that kind of stuff. But all the AI would do is just finish it for me, basically.
Or even get it to like 98% or 90% of finishing, and then you can just go and wipe it.
Oh yeah, hell, it was 75%. It was just that still saves you a vast amount of time, and work.
Yeah, because a lot of us, don't have that much time. Like, especially if you're working full time, right, and you got a couple hours a night before you go to bed to do some artwork or do some writing, and then next thing you got to do this over and over again. And if you can have that extra, while you're awake, right, at work, you've got the AI running its thing, and then you come home. Oh, cool! Now it's cleaned away a couple hours of your, time to edit. It's already edited for you. It sounds really good.
It's going to evolve. The thing is, the technology is going to evolve. It's going to get back. A good example of that is like, when movies first came out. When the motion pictures first came, they were crude. They were very, they weren't very, back then it was a wonder. People would say, oh, movie pictures, wow, fantastic. But if you look at it in the past, it's like, wow, these are pretty crude. And, things like, right now, AI is in its infancy. Okay. It's in its, it'll only grow bigger and stronger from there. and as more and more as technology and memory capacity gets better, and people understand the language of AI, then it's you'll be able to create your own AI. I foresee a day where everybody's gonna have his own personal AI.
Yeah.
Someone will just be there just for you. You're the one, just like robots. I sooner or later
Yeah.
we're gonna have robots. It's just gonna
Yeah.
happen. And we'll see what technology. We'll see what humanity will be then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, like when you just mentioned, I remember writing a story, where the AI is actually part of your iris, right? You just put it into your eyeball, and it just sits there, and so everything's here in front of you. But I mean, other people have written that already. But I just thought that the fact that that is there, and you can communicate, and your maps wherever you need to go, it's all part of you. And I'm sure eventually we'll get there. Not too long in the future.
No,
I, I think
you're absolutely right.
I think the negative, like, I mean, like you said, like, when it, when it's like harming your personal income or your earnings, that's when people get upset by it. I mean, we look at Hollywood, with the strikes and stuff, and about how AI, they're going to be like, put your images into movies and stuff forever whenever they want to fill up, this, like, the extras on the crowd. But
Well,
it's really, I think, would be your own personal decisions whether you sign up to that or not.
well, the thing about it is that you still need a creative mind. Okay, the thing about AI cannot generate anything from whole cloth. Okay, you still
Right.
have to tell it what to do. Okay, once an AI starts creating things on its own, then we have to worry. Okay, but until that day happens, okay, you still need a human interaction with it. And the thing about it is that you know if you can make if you can take advantage of it, I mean, why shouldn't you? That's the thing. The tool is there,
Right.
available to you. Why are you threatened by it? Okay,
Mm.
why if you are so insecure in your own creativity, that you cannot that you cannot use it to
Mm.
be even more creative, then what are you doing? You
Right.
know, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Now, I want to move to talking about Areala. It's herself, right? How she came about and where it's going, and because you've got a competition on at the moment, right, as well. So tell us about the birth of Areala and, the warrior nun, and how it got to where it's gotten to, and what was the process, because I know, like, it came out in 94, but I'm sure, you started way before then, right, coming up with the idea and stuff.
Well, it actually started with the birth of the bad girl, with the Lady Death. Things like
Mm.
comics like Lady Death, it becoming really popular, and then everybody was starting to do their own version of the bad girl. And of course, with comics, when there's a success, just like in movies, everyone's trying to copy that success. Try to
Right.
create a version in order to see if lightning will strike twice. So when we saw these bad girl books selling huge numbers, I mean, we were talking about huge numbers,
Mm.
and we thought, hey, we need to get on this bandwagon. So
Okay.
one day we had a at the office, we had a
Mm.
brainstorming session. We just started saying, what could we create to compete with uh,
Mm.
all these bad girl comics that are coming out? So I said I took a different tack. I said I'm not going to do a bad girl. I'm going to do a good girl. What's the ultimate good girl? A nun. Okay,
Yeah.
so and of course I grew up going to Catholic school, so I knew all about
Same.
the
Yeah.
Catholic imagery, the religion, and everything else like that. I went to middle school that were run by nuns, and believe me, you do not trifle with them.
No.
And that got me thinking. He says, why wouldn't they fight evil if they were like basically superheroes?
Yeah.
So I made nuns superheroes. And I got I got the spark when I saw a a news story about a group of nuns that taught themselves martial arts. You
Right.
know, never occurred to me that hey, nuns could kick ass. And I thought the whole imagery also was sort of like antithetical of what a nun's supposed to be. A nun's supposed to be like uh, a a a bride of Christ, very humble. You always see them as being nice and
Yeah.
things like that. But no, I wanted my nuns to, take names and do some serious ass kicking. So, I just created a world where what if demons and vampires and monsters and things like that actually existed? Wouldn't the Catholic Church, create some sort of
Mm,
organization to combat these supernatural elements, if they actually existed? So that's where I came up with the idea of doing the Warrior Knight. I mean, I went through a lot of names and iterations. I guys
yeah.
called it Sister Sanguine. I did Sister Bloodshed, Sister,
Yeah.
I did Sister. And I said, you know what, that's the obvious tack. So I decided that I would go with great, so I said Battle Nun, and I finally settled on Warrior Nun because it seemed to fit what
Yeah.
she stands for. I mean, she's a warrior of Christ. So
Yeah.
it only made sense to me that she be called Warrior Nun. So that's how. And then the Areala part came about because I just, thought it was just a weird name. So I just thought that seemed to fit. So
Yeah.
I went with that.
It's such a. I mean, I remember, it's been a while since I've read it, right? But I've read it, and I've read a couple of the others. But
Well, I'll be honest with you, it is definitely a product of the '90s. So
yeah.
you take it with a grain of salt.
So how long was the process of actually from like conception to actually saying, okay, yes, here she is now? How long did that take you?
Oh, from the idea took about a weekend. Okay, but they actually do the comic took about 20 or 30 days. And we were just this is also the infancy of computer coloring, so I really took advantage of that. I taught myself how to do Photoshop and everything else, and this is back when the memory was expensive. So we
Yeah,
we
I mean, you when you're looking at it, you can see where the colors come in from the computers compared
yeah,
to
we were just learning it.
yeah,
Yeah, and we were and back then people, you know we're dealing nowadays with terabytes of memory. I mean, we were
yeah,
lucky. We were lucky
yeah,
we had like 50 megabytes. It's like,
yeah.
wow. That was a lot of memory back then.
It was huge. You could forget. I think it was like what uh gosh, I remember going from like a 500 megabyte
Well,
memory to now I have like about 12 gigs.
yeah, I
It's
mean,
crazy.
everyone knew back then that Photoshop
Yeah,
was a memory hog. I mean, you couldn't run
yeah,
anything else, while Photoshop was running. So,
yeah.
yeah, it was not a multitask uh, uh, program for sure.
So a weekend and 30 days from concept to getting the story out, or was it a bit longer than that, do you think?
No, it was about that long, and then we
Wow.
decided once it was completed, we solicited, and the numbers were outstanding. These were like
Okay.
one of the best-selling Antarctic Press books we ever
Mm,
done. So we knew we were onto something,
mm.
and we just kept at it. And Warrior Nun ran for close to 10 or 15 years before I sold it to Avatar Comics.
Right. So I think I've read the Avatar ones as well. So when they, because it's so, what was the process about? I mean, after 15 years of writing this thing, what was the decision to like, go, okay, we're gonna sell it to Avatar? What was the decision behind selling it to Avatar?
Well, at the time, the book was waning. People were the sales were not as healthy as they were in the past, and I had family issues that were economic, so I had to make a decision to go ahead and sell it. And they made an offer, which I thought was very fair, so I sold it to Avatar Comics.
Now, so are you still, are you still named as the creator of her, or
Yes, that was one of the provisions in the contract was that I had to be listed as the creator.
Right. Now, with that, even having sold it off like that, is there any revenue, like ongoing revenue you get from that, or is it just theirs?
No, it was a complete. I sold all the rights, so I don't get any
Right.
revenue. I don't get any residuals from any of the Netflix series. I don't get
Mm,
anything. Basically, they get everything. You know,
right.
all I am is basically maybe a creative consultant, and I still get screen credit.
Right. Now, with creative consultants, that's a paid, paid stipends, right?
No, I don't get
No.
paid for it, but I do get a free trip to. I do get a free trip on the first day of shooting, so at least that's something.
Awesome. Yeah, I just with that in mind, with the movies coming up and stuff, are you still allowed to having sold it, do anything with Areala?
I don't do anything personally. All I do is I still do commissions of a
Right.
character, and when the people who are doing the movie ask me to do some sort of promotional thing, I'm more than willing to help out with that.
Awesome. Now, you are what was I was reading here? You are running a competition right now. Is that to do with yourself? Or I mean, there is a competition out there to redesign the Halo in the upcoming Warrior and Continuation. Now, is that part of what you're doing, or there's somebody
No,
else?
that is the production company entirely. They asked me to participate in this contest, and I said,
Yeah.
of course, yes, and so they're the ones actually running it. I don't know anything other than providing a video of myself to promote it and
Right.
actually doing the contest art.
Awesome. Now, this is a paid contest, or is it just like is it prizes for it, or is it like
I have no idea. All I know is that. Uh, all I know is that I'm supposed to do the artwork for it,
yeah.
the prize artwork, and that's about it.
Now you've got a Kickstarter coming out now, but there's also a Kickstarter with Niobe Comics with Niobe crossover with Penguina. Now,
Yes.
Penguina is one of the other characters. I just want to let me just check. I've got the link for it, so I can share that with folks here. Um, Let me find. It's on Kickstarter, or is it Indiegogo?
It's on Kickstarter.
Okay, let's do a search for Niobe. Niobe. There we go. All right, guys, I'm going to share this since you got, and I'll get Ben to talk about Penguina because I don't know that much about Penguina, to be honest. I know a bit about Niobe because I've interviewed Larry, and so this is a project right now that's on, and we said they've already surpassed they're very close. We've still got 25 days to go, and they're very close to reach their goal of 62 New Zealand, 6,200 New Zealand, but they need another $160. So, and that's New Zealand
Yeah,
dollars, not US dollars or Canadian
pretty
dollars.
good. Pretty good.
That is very good. I mean, that's only 5 days. And so, tell us about Penguina, right?
Well,
Who is Penguina?
Penguin was sort of an accidental character. One day we had a business meeting, and I said, we need some sort of identity, for our company, because we've been in
Right,
business for so long, and we've done so many varied comics, but we've never really had a mascot or identity. Say, what we should do, should create one. So I created this girl character in a penguin outfit, and I posted it on my Facebook page. Say, hey, our new mascot, Penguina. With no intention really of doing anything other than she would just be a representative of our company. But I got so much fan art, I got so much positive feedback on the character. I said, hell, there's just something here. If she's eliciting such a visceral response from our fans, maybe we should do something with her. So we made the decision to go ahead and make her into a real character, and that's where it took off from there. And so we decided to give her own book. I did a call from creators to do stories with her in it,
yeah.
and we got a whole bunch of really cool and great submissions.
So this is her with the yellow headband here, right? With the black jacket.
That's Larry's doing. He wanted to give her
Yeah.
sort of a real world look.
Yeah. So this is this? Oh, that's her there with Is that it, like is her little thing at the back with the penguins, or is that something different? Is this Larry's doing as well?
Yeah,
On the
that's that.
jacket?
Well, actually, that's the Nichelle Fraga's idea, but he adapted it for Penguina.
Yeah. I mean, Larry's such a classy dude. With the way he does marketing and stuff. And was this his idea or was this your idea to do a crossover?
Well, we had created something called the Superverse, which is basically a way for creators who are part of it to basically let other creators borrow their characters.
Right.
And Larry wanted to do a Penguino one. I said, he asked me if he could do it. I said, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
And this is the result of that. And the thing about it is that I always think that to build community is probably our biggest strength. If we can actually just get indie creators together, I mean, why shouldn't we? Why, my idea for the Superverse was that it would be the largest shared universe in comics ever. Because
Right.
I want to be able to allow anybody who owns their own character to cross over into another creator's comic if they want to.
Right. So you got Savage Sin and other stuff here as well. Is that part of his? Oh, that is. Yeah, I remembered right. That was part of his world with with Larry's comics. So, what is the idea behind the character herself?
Like well, her origin is that she was rocketed from another dimension into ours, and she was raised by a samurai penguin. She landed in the Antarctic. She was raised by a samurai penguin, and then when she came of age, she was told to go to the human world and do good. And so that's basically her origin story. And right now, originally her powers were that she could read a comic book and she could adapt the powers of that comic book. But that sort of changed slightly because of other creators. And quite frankly, we don't know really what to do with her. And I figure over time, eventually it'll be solidified into something a little bit more concrete. But at the moment, we're just having fun with her, just see where it takes it, and eject the stuff that doesn't work and keep the stuff that does.
It's all the trial and error and process of actually
it's pretty much a trial and error. Exactly. I mean, that's what makes it fun, though. You add a little. Everyone adds a little bit to it, and create something a little bit more unique.
Now, tell us a bit about Ninja High School, because I know that's one of your longest running ones, and I don't personally know anything about that because, like you said, bad girls that I like bad girls, so.
Sure. Well, Ninja High School started in 1987. I was originally intending it only as a 3-issue miniseries. It's basically my version of the Japanese anime teen comedy, which was pretty popular at the time. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to do my own version of it. So I sat down, decided that ninjas were popular at the time, so I just said, there are a bunch of ninjas that attend high school, so that was the whole premise. And but I decided to go a little bit different with it and make it more of a wild and crazy, type of world where anything can happen, because that was typical of the Japanese anime at the time, where just stuff happens because they happen. We just accept it. So that's basically what. The approach I took. So I created these characters, and after 10 years, I replaced them with a new set of characters, and then after that, I replaced them with a new set of characters.
It's awesome. So there's quite a few projects you put out on through Kickstarter. Is this something that like you guys use for funding, or is it for publicity, or is it both?
Now this is for me. I wanted to give older fans something that they could collect, and I wanted to expose new fans to something new who've never read it before. So I decided this was the perfect way for me to bring back Ninja High School to because there was Ninja High School went on a hiatus for about 5 years because Diamond instituted a minimum order policy. Of course, they've since abandoned that, and when they abandoned it, I brought back the series, and now it's running on a regular basis.
Awesome. This is such a, I think this is something I would want to get into because I'm a manga and anime fan. So, it's something that I find interesting coming across something new like this. Tell us about the characters here. I mean, like you've got this regular looking dude, and then you've got all these other, fantasy type characters.
Okay, well, that right there, the one you're showing here, that is what is called the V1 character, Generation 1. Okay, it consisted of Jeremy Feeple, a ninja named Ichiku, and a alien princess named Azrael. They come to Earth. They come to Quagmire, which is his hometown, and they want to marry him because that's what they're supposed to do. And that was the premise of the original series. And then all the weird stuff that happens is basically just stuff that I wanted to do and make, with these characters. And then around 1999, around 2000, I switched the whole cast to his brother, Ricky Feeple. And he has that's him, he has a whole new set of problems with a bunch of new characters. But he's a really good ninja, so he has to deal with that, and it became actually more like there's more ninjas in Ninja High School in this version, Now, if you go to there's a Kickstarter for textbook number 9. I think you show that is the go up there, right there, that one, Ninja High School textbook 9. That's the new cast. Okay, they're called Generation 3. Okay, so what happened is that an alien parasite takes over Quagmire, and Anna Feeple and Steamhead, who are two other characters in the original series, they jump into another dimension, and they recruit new students, to take back Quagmire. And the ones they recruited is a guy named Roger Wilco, who's like a comic book nerd, and Saki, who's like a magical ninja, and Petunia, who's a Scarillion from outer space, who were the ones who actually released the aliens, that took over the world. So she has to help, she has to help make things right.
Right. I didn't realize this was up right now. So I mean, you've already surpassed your your goal, which is awesome, because I mean, success is great because people are still interested in after all this time. Like, it's great to see that you've got some amazing support, for something that you created a while back, but I'm going to play this video so we can
It's pretty loud.
Okay, there it was.
It's pretty loud.
So let's have a watch, because so everybody can see what's going on.
Welcome to my British school. You cannot see classmates. They can do super communication. You are gonna know people summer vacation. Rolling Star, Lorry. Rolling Star, Lorry. Rolling Star, Lorry. 아트랑 카라멜 점프. 모델로 점프 킥크. 양극 삼포 점프.
So there's so many awesome covers. I didn't realize it was such a big book. Is it
Oh, yeah.
396 pages?
356 pages.
56.
Yeah.
Wow. So this is
So
a full-on.
it's only we're only like I'm only like 7 issues away from number 200.
Okay. This is volume 9, textbook 9. Does that mean it's a volume 9 of the?
Yeah, there's
Of
a
the project?
there's a previous eight of them that you can get.
All right. How
If
many
you scroll
issues?
down, you can see them.
Sure. How many issues of the comics are in this one volume?
It should be about let's see, 1, 2,
3,
3,
6, 12,
yeah, about
15?
15. Yeah,
Yeah. Plus, you're going to have extras and all sorts in there as well.
yeah.
Now, there's the other volumes there.
Those are volumes. Yeah.
And you can get them all, guys, at $10 for PDF if you wanted, if you didn't want hardcovers or anything like that. But PDFs are really cool because, you're still able to get the work. Now, I was thinking, like, you've got, it's only just started. Oh, no, it's only about to finish. We only got about two more days. Is it 2 more days? 24 hours, yeah?
Yeah.
So 2 more days before it finishes, but you've already, project's already successful, but still there's room for more. So
Can always
get in
use
there.
more.
Yeah. So the link is in the chat there, guys, in the comment section. So you guys can follow through if you want to support and get behind that project. Now, I don't want to hold yourself up too much more because you've just finished a long day convention. And are you doing it again tomorrow? Because it's still Sunday tomorrow, isn't it?
It's a 2-day show. It's a 2-day show, so I'll be there tomorrow. But no, it's my pleasure. I appreciate you taking the time to ask me all these questions. I always like to share my experiences with other people.
Yeah, I enjoy that more than anything, having conversations with people about their journey, because I think you can learn so much about people and in
Sure,
these conversations.
absolutely.
Now, in finishing here, what I do at the end is like the words of wisdom section, where basically give whatever advice you have, whatever you experience, whatever you want to say as the last piece about your journey so far. And I'll put you on solo. You've got about 3 to 5 minutes to do that, and it's
Ooh, that's
just
a long time.
yeah, it doesn't have to be that long. It's just whatever you want. That's the time we allow for, just to a short and sweet, whatever way you want to put it
No
through.
problem.
But I'll give you a couple minutes there to check it out. I mean, to come up with it, and I'll put you on solo and silence myself. So take it away.
Well, all right. Just a little bit of advice from the Benster. One of the things I always say is that it all starts with you. I mean, you have to, follow your dream, and you have to be determined to do it. One of the things I always say is that it's doesn't do you any good if you keep your idea locked up in your head. You could have the next huge idea, but it doesn't do anybody any good if you keep it locked away in your head. You got to go out, expose it to the world, let people see it, let people read it, let people be exposed to it. I mean, you just got to take that chance. So anyway, that's it. Like I said, it just all starts with you, man. It just all starts with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben, and thank you for taking time out. I mean, how long is this convention for?
Well, it's only for it was only today and tomorrow, and then I got a long drive back to Dallas.
Right. So if you guys are out in, it's in Houston, right? This convention.
It's just outside of Hume. It's in a town called Beaumont.
Right. So if you guys are around watching from there, go check it out and go say hi to Ben. And he's an artist, so you could probably get something drawn and sketched for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ben. I really appreciate your wisdom and taking your time out to be with us.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
We'll see you next time, and wherever you are, be well, be safe, and give your loved ones a hug if they're close by. Thank you, Ben, and thank you everybody else for watching.
Take care. Bye-bye.